One of my favorite phrases as it relates to customer service was, the answer is yes. Now, what was the question? Right. So, but if you don't fundamentally believe that as one of my employees, I can't have you on the team, because you're going to be out there going, well, we don't do that, or I'm going to have to send you a change order. Now, there's ways to have that conversation without being difficult, right? So the values piece, and again, it sounds so trite and trivial, but it is absolutely what matters today. And as demographics change, age, gender, and international diversity. I mean, Ireland is it has become more diverse over the years. So okay, so now I have somebody from pick the country in the world now working with me. I can't assume that their definition of customer service or integrity is the same. So I have to define that for them and say, these are the rules we play by here. Whether you're from Chicago or Cincinnati or County Carlo, right? These are the words we play by.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to I'm the Gaffer. The good and great guests just keep coming and coming. And this guy is coming all the way from the windy city of Chicago. He has some Irish background, which I'm pleased to have had a conversation with. His name is Wally Adamchik. And Wally is a very unique type of a character, and I'm really excited to have a conversation with him today because he likes to get under the bonnet of the personalities that run companies, but he also likes to even out those personalities so that everybody has the same mission purpose and everybody has the success within the business in an equal measure, and that there's no equality in terms of the output for success within construction. Wally, I'm delighted to have you here, and welcome to I'm the Gaffer.
I'm excited to be with you. I look forward to the conversation.
I'm really looking forward to it. I was noticing on your LinkedIn profile, and I think it's a very cool thing that you've done, was you put some testimonials of individual statements of people that have attended your workshops, I would call them, or training sessions. And the first one obviously sticks out was, my people don't bring me problems anymore, according to John Kay, the president of the company. So if everybody's equal, why is the president shouting, my people don't bring me problems anymore? Is it that you've equaled out the problem solving scenario for that company?
Well, there's two sides of that one. First one is that the president used to, like, you bring me a problem, Gavin, and I'm a great guy. I want to help you. So I say, I got it. Well, I got my job to do too, right? So if I keep taking everyone else's problems, then I'm going to train them to bring me problems. But you're a smart guy, right? So I want to train you to solve your own problems. More importantly, I want to have confidence, and you want you to have confidence to go solve the problem. And I'm not going to second guess you and tell you that you're a stupid idiot or whatever the case may be, because you did it one way or another. So it's me recognizing as the leader that let you do your thing, because that's what I hired you to do.
Yeah. And so your company is called Firestarter. Any particular reason for that name? Because there must be a backstory on that.
Well, yeah, I figured that, and the company has been in existence since 2003, so 21 years, and that Wally Adamchik Enterprises or something like that just sounded kind of boring, and it didn't have a good exit strategy. But when you think about fire in the belly, right, passion for what we do, whether it's watching the All Ireland final, or building a building, do we have passion, fire in the belly, and I think great leaders are able to nurture that within people. So that's what Firestarter is all about.
Yeah, no, it's a really cool name. It's a good one to do. 21 years as founder and president of that company, and basically you go into companies to have the hard conversations with everybody and trying to get a sort of a commonality of approach that people can come together in a one for all approach as opposed to operating in silos. Would that be a fair comment?
It is. The companies that are calling me are recognizing that they're not as efficient as they could be, that they're trying to elevate their leadership, often at the frontline level, but often at a higher tier if they're a larger organization. They're trying to scale it up, and as you grow, you bring on more risk, more variability. So I have to train you to lead, and we can now within there's management, supervision, etc. But yeah, it's helping companies or small individuals figure out how to work on the business, not in the business. And oh, by the way, you have to do both. But I think that would be it.
Yeah. So, like, again, in the pre-chat chat that we had, there's a lot of guys going around, and like, it seems to be a thing that's taken off in the last couple of years. The coaching side of things and the mentorship, and it seems to be a very saturated market. But the one thing that stuck out for us, which is why we wanted to get you on the podcast, was over 20 years experience and a career before that in coaching and helping and developing people. And I think it's a credit to you that you've consistently brought that to the to where you are today. But can you give us, the listeners, a sort of a background of the earlier part of Wally's years in terms of where
Happy
that
to do
all
that.
came about? Yeah.
So I grew up on Long Island, and my brother and dad were union construction workers in New York City. So my brother went into the trades. He might have gone to university for a semester, but he went into the trades. So when I was 14, 15, 16, when we had off from high school, I was working, right? I was a helper on job sites in New York City, doing what helpers do, right? All the crap work, right? And and I was fortunate enough that I was able to attend the University of Notre Dame and get a degree there. I was commissioned in the United States Marine Corps, and I served 10 years in the Marines. So, it's a leadership lab, right? I learned a lot about leadership as a Marine officer. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I got my MBA, so that helped me understand, the business of business. At the same time, I was a regional manager for a national restaurant company. I ended up running about 30 restaurants. So now I understand like the actual business. And then because of the MBA, I was able to get into consulting, and again, have been doing that for about 26 years now. But 5 of it with a firm, and then the last 21 on my own. So as an officer of Marines, I was in tanks, so big armored vehicles. So now I'm out there with dirt and highway contractors. I understand what maintenance is about, right? And equipment and all that stuff. So everything I've done over the past, over my lifetime really has qualified me or has taught me things that now make me, able to be an advisor to the construction industry.
Yeah, like, I'm just thinking organized chaos. You came from organized chaos. It sounds like, uh, even with the Marines, I'm sure, like, you know, there's procedures, there's systems, there's a way of doing it properly, but it's still in a reactive mode. As it's not so much proactive. Would you agree with that?
Well, exactly. I mean, no plan survives contact with the enemy, whether that's the planning of the Normandy invasion or it's the planning of that tenant fit out, down in Limerick somewhere, right? It's just you're there doing the tenant fit out, you pull the sheetrock off, the drywall off, and you're like, oh, we didn't expect that, right? So no plan survives contact with enemy, and that's why we have to have leadership, flexibility, empowered people, etc., as opposed to one person solving all the problems.
Yeah, and do you know what? You don't talk this garbage of grandstanding statements of I've got the playbook for this and I've got the playbook for that, and here's my UBC DCU model for 5 steps to successful business. There's none of that. There's none of that crap that comes out of your your mantra. And I'm
Look,
so refreshed by that.
I wish I could do that and sell that book that does 1 million copies. But no, that's the thing is reality, right? There's too many consultants that are not in touch with reality. So if let's just say a company has 25 people in it and they say, hey, can you help us with leadership? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to run a 6-month program, 1 day a month. And we're going to bring all your superintendents in, 7 superintendents, foremen, whatever. We shut the company down, right? You still have to make money. Now, if you've got, if you're somebody massive and you have 200 frontline leaders, well, yeah, then we can do that. So understanding the context of your situation is really important because one size doesn't fit all. One size fits one. And that's the same with personal leadership too, whether as opposed to organizational leadership.
Yeah. So I'm Gavin Coyle, LLC, small asbestos contractor in Long Island, and I'm after purchasing another company, an environmental company, and I'm really, excited about the fact that I'm going to scale this company. But I do need to have a merger of cultures together, and I need to find the right man. And I think that might be Wally. Would that be the right man?
Yeah, we could help with that conversation, right? It's well, it could be, right? But yeah, that would be an interesting conversation for sure. And talking about what are the strengths of each. Why did you think this was going to have sense or make sense?
So how do you approach that, Wally? Sorry to cut across you, but how's your approach? Like I'd say every. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I would say every scenario has its own unique set of circumstances. But there must be some sort of commonality now at this point of 21 years that you've said, okay, 1, 2, 3, this is how I get in, do the gap analysis, understand the logic, and then understand where the challenges are, or how do you manipulate that?
For those, not that I'm a subscriber to this book, but there's a book out there called Traction, which if some of your listeners might be interested in. But the first thing it talks about is creating a set of values. Now, values are such a buzzword these days, and you throw them around, but it really says, hey, how do we want to be as a company, right? So and it's integrity, safety, quality. There's probably better ways of saying it that really are our words, right? But it's about us coming into the room together, those senior leaders from that organization, saying, who do we want to be? Now, theoretically, if you merged, you probably merged with somebody who you have some degree of respect and affinity to. It's not purely an economic merger. That there's a cultural, it may be here, but it's not here. But to clearly define, who we are. There's a business in the U.S. called Chick-fil-A, and they're very Christian. They don't operate on Sundays, etc. And look, this is not this is who we are. If you don't buy into that, don't come in. Right, to who we are, right? So the values piece then says this is who we are, and then it defines, you used the word earlier, the playbook that we're going to play by, right? So that, and look, whether my company has 5 people or 500 people, that's a legitimate conversation. Who are we going to be? We're going to have great customer service. Okay, cool. What does that really look like? Well, it means when the homeowner calls us, we're going to respond within an hour, whether we have the answer or not. You get the point, right? Like, what does that really look like? And one of my favorite phrases that relates to customer service was, the answer is yes. Now, what was the question? Right. So, but if you don't fundamentally believe that as one of my employees, I can't have you on the team. Because you're going to be out there going, well, we don't do that, or I'm going to have to send you a change order. Now, there's ways to have that conversation without being difficult, right? So the values piece, and again, it sounds so trite and trivial, but it is absolutely what matters today. And as demographics change, age, gender, and international diversity. I mean, Ireland is it has become more diverse over the years. So okay, so now I have somebody from pick the country in the world now working with me. I can't assume that their definition of customer service or integrity is the same. So I have to define that for them and say, these are the rules we play by here. Whether you're from Chicago or Cincinnati or County Carlo, right? These are the words we play by. That really is the beginning of, because what that does is it sets the foundation for the business. And what we like, concrete foundation, this is what we stand on. And then when the slings and arrows and challenges of life and business come at you, you can go, not a problem. We've got that foundation.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful. It talks to the brand.
Right.
So, Starbucks are a classic example of that. I know that you say Chick-fil-A, which is another great example of it. But I suppose from a construction point of view, there has been a massive shift in how construction companies want their brand to be seen in the public eye. So years ago, we had plywood as hoarding outside the sites. Now it's kind of flashy vinyl and, video screens and all the rest of it. What goes on behind could be a completely different perception of what's in front.
True. That's true.
But it just goes to show you that if you want to win business, your brand can get your foot in the door. But what you're saying is that's just a foot in the door. Now you have to deliver on the promise. And what is your promises?
Well, and the other side of that, from we'll call it a marketing perspective or a brand perspective, is how much of that is for the person who's going to buy your service, and how much of it is for the potential employee. Right. I know. Right. So, because we know there's a labor challenge, right?
Or the community.
Yes. Right. I have a client here in the U.S. They do $1.5 billion in roads, 100% public bid. Right. So there's nothing negotiated about it. They put it in an envelope and they win it or they don't. And they just did a $100,000 website update / renovation. But they don't need a website to get business, right? It's hard bid, but they need it to attract employees.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting point. And they will do that.
The good ones are.
The good ones are, yeah. The ones that are out in front are doing it. And, the listeners to our show will be in the smaller, maybe less than 10 million type of a company. That doesn't matter. You can still brand yourself like a really top end company. You don't, like, technology and access to technology and access to freelancers and stuff like that has made things a lot more achievable and a lot more economical in order to produce these types of branding look and feel. But of course, no point in over promising and under delivering. So that's where you come in.
And of course, right, I mean, how big do you want to be? How much work do you want to get, right? I mean, in theory, I get more work. I can raise my prices. I still need to deliver all of those things. But you're right. The social media conversation, again, Facebook, TikTok, Insta, right, through all of those, there's strategies for each of those. And, you can, and there really is a game to be played there if you choose to, right? There's plenty of folks that survive on word of mouth. And that's a wonderful place to be. It's also a little risky, right? But, and again, we recognize we have some smaller contractors, and I guess smaller, I mean, like, that doesn't mean it's easy, right? I mean, running a business is hard. Running a construction company is hard. There's always going to be a challenge. But you can make your life a little easier from a get work and a get employee perspective with just a little bit of a presence on social media. And oh, by the way, you may be better than me, but if your commercial is better, I may not get the opportunity.
Yeah. So, but like at the same time, I suspect you're saying that marketing isn't everything. It's about people.
Like you said, what goes on behind that fence is what really matters, right? I mean, we've all been let's face it, we all look at marketing and branding with a bit of skepticism and a little bit of, I don't know so about that. But now when I get behind the fence, and whether I'm a customer or as an employee or the community, where you're not polluting my area and damaging the streets and all that, that builds trust, which is the fundamental currency of any good relationship. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. So, it's screaming in my head. So I have this sort of problem as an Irish person that I have to shoot from the hip, as you know, and just ask just mad, crazy questions that come out of a curveball, and people go, "Shit, did he just ask that?" But how do you deal with arseholes in the training scenarios or workshops?
Like if
Because
I have one in the room,
yeah, because I'm not painting I'm not painting a picture that there's arseholes in construction. There's arseholes in every walk of life, but
there's a lot of assholes in construction. Um,
there's
so
there's 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 but there's people that play out they play out the role of an arsehole just to be different, maybe. And I've seen that in the past where they're just being difficult for the sake of being difficult.
So sure. First of all, is to some degree, I welcome the dialogue, right? Like, okay, let's talk about your scenario. And generally, I have good response. Well, what are you going to do with the guy who does this? Well, I would do this, or I would do this. Well, what about this? Well, I would do this, or I would do this. If they're just being, and at some point, their buddies begin to look at them and like, for God's sake, Liam, will you just shut up? Right? I mean, at some point, you get some of that. But you look, and again, I said I embrace it. Like, let's talk about it because that's reality, right? Because you're talking about it, but there's probably two other guys thinking about, yeah, but what about this guy, right? So let's talk about it. At some point, I may have to go one on one and go, dude, what's your freaking problem? Because you're being kind of disruptive, and did somebody, you know, help me. And they're like, well, this is all bullshit, whatever. And I'm like, well, maybe you should just leave, or maybe you just shut up for the next 4 hours and make my life go better. That's an extreme. I don't know if I've ever had those conversations, but I engage because it says I respect you. And if you respectfully engage back and go, well, that's bullshit, whatever, it's like, okay, let's talk about that because I am an expert in this. So I am willing to have that and sometimes I may have to go, something, you're right in that situation, but the broader context is these are the principles that work.
Yeah. Um, like you're very humble. You don't talk down to people. That's another quality that you have. And I'm sure that people embrace you. And I love the fact that you have this sort of authentic approach towards working with companies and treating people as people. And you said something that really resonated with me, was that people are the profit. The profit is the people. And if they're also the product in some ways. If I suppose if you look at it that way. So in terms of a commonality of issues that you're seeing across the construction industry, where's the risks? Where's the high risks that we could take home today to say, you know what, you really need to get a handle on 1, 2, 3, or you're behind the curveball.
Well, I think we're past the supply chain risk that COVID threw at us for a couple of years, and that was when you're waiting months for a, a switch or something. I mean, some of that crazy stuff and some of the pricing craziness. Look, but that was real, right? That was absolutely real, and it put some companies out of business. But so I think supply chain risk is okay right now. We have financing risk right now with interest rates and the cost of money. And the problem with that is a lot of contractors don't understand what their true overhead is. and what delayed payments really cost them. So, at some point, I'm financing your job, right? When you take 30 days to pay, but I installed whatever on day 5, and I invoice you on day 14, and you take 30 days, so you've paid me on day 45. If I'm now, maybe I have a supplier that will help me out, but at 7% interest, that's a really expensive thing right now. Now we think it's going to come down in the near future. We hope, right? But so financing risk is really important. And of course, then we come to the labor risk, right? The fact that I don't have qualified people to do the job. Nobody wants to work in construction. That's crap. Nobody wants to work in a crappy job. So if I can create a place where they feel trusted, respected, where they have a life and can gain a decent wage, right? That's what all humans want. So I can do that doing many things. But if I can, and this is that brand you talked about earlier, right? And the employee value proposition, right? About what's it like when I come there. So nobody wants to work in construction. Well, no, people will work in construction, but let's give them a choice to come to a place where we call it a great place to work. And what is that? I trust my supervisor. I have pride in my organization, and I like the people I work with. If we can create that, we can retain people. If I retain people, I get higher quality, higher customer service, higher safety, and higher profitability.
Like we've had numerous conversations on the podcast as well about the cross-related skill sets of other industries into construction. So in particular, what I'm thinking of is we had a couple of teachers, and of course their mindset of mentorship, coaching, learning, the learning curve and how to get your message across, and the fact that obviously they've had this baseline primary education of education that has an immediate benefit into construction. And I don't know why more companies don't look at that as another avenue to say, hey, we might be able to cross-pollinate other professions into and parachute them into construction, and we'll just give them that sort of platform of our knowledge to get them up to speed over a period of time. And I know some companies are doing it, and it's really interesting space for me to watch out. Is there anything on your side of the water that speaks to that?
Well, I would go to the military, right? And obviously, we I think it's 200,000 people a year that we put out of the military. So we know they know how to work hard. We know they know how to show up on time. Many of them have worked with their hands, whether they've been in infantry or combat engineers, whatever. So the short answer is, whether it's teachers, military, whatever, is it's not enough, right? The gap in people is significant with the people that are retiring. Demographics are similar in your place, but it's this. I want somebody with 7 years of experience, who will do it for, $29 a year, whatever. It's like that human doesn't exist anymore, right? So, this person doesn't know construction. Well, at some point in your life, you didn't know it either. So give me somebody who's got a good skill set. They can teach, they can train, they can talk. They operated a bulldozer in the military. They can operate a bulldozer on a job site, right? It is very short-sighted that firms are not looking adjacent, right, to where those skill sets are complementary. Look, I would love if I could get that experienced operator to come and run my bulldozer, right? Yeah, they don't exist anymore. So because they already have a job. So it remains a huge opportunity.
Well, it's a huge opportunity. It requires a bit of smart thinking, collaboration, innovation, and people that are just thinking outside the box. And I think whoever grabs that opportunity first is going to win the battle of the labour market. And I think everybody, as you say, is pulling for labour from somewhere. But we can't keep using these search engines for generic CVs that everybody has. All the platforms have.
I think where we're seeing a move on this side is what I'll call high school internships, right, or high school apprentices, or co-ops, or whatever the terms may be. So you take this person who is 1 or 2 years away from graduating out of high school, and different state laws vary on what age you can do this, but you bring them in and you teach them a little bit of life skills, you teach them a little bit of construction skills, and then you put them on a crew, and then you bring them back in and you teach them a little bit of life skills and a little bit of construction skills. And you say, look, Gavin, as a young man, young woman, I want you to have a successful life. Oh, by the way, you can have that with us. Right. So now they have, spent, 16, I don't know, 12 weeks with us in the summer, maybe in the off holiday as well. And we've paid them what? More than working at McDonald's is going to pay. And
so it's an academy. Companies
yes,
need to be developing academies. It's an academy. Yeah, it's a center of excellence academy that there's no point in having the brand promise, and that's why I wanted to start with the brand. And I'm glad that you brought that in. But there's no point in having this higher purpose, value, trust system and not have the conveyor belt that can actually feed into that.
And use people, the union's supposed to do that. The trade association is supposed to do that. Yeah, that used to happen, but now it's not happening anymore. So if I'm big enough, maybe I bring 2 kids in, right? I'm not that big, but maybe I bring 2 in and one of them comes to work for me in 2 years. But I may have that kid for life now.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe their kids later on afterwards.
Exactly right.
Do you know what I mean? Work ethic, I suppose, will always be the center point of a good relationship between an employer and an employee.
Absolutely. But, so many kids come in, they graduate from high school and they have no idea they don't even know what end of the shovel to use. Right. And, so
I'm just thinking of a business owner. Sorry to cut across you, Wally. A business owner. It's just that you said that, had said to me in the past, I'm being presented with a 27, 28-year-old who has never worked a day in his life because he went straight out of school into college or university. And I'm expected to be told that this is like the new version of what success looks like in terms of a high-powered professional to help me drive this company forward.
Yeah, that's not the person. It's, they're not high-powered. But hey, by the way, if they decide that when they went to do their art history thing, not that that's a bad thing, but right. And here they are at 27 and going, something, this isn't for me. There's only one art history job in all of Ireland and it's at Trinity College or something like that. Maybe I could go into the trades over here and have a real job and have a real life and make some money and all of those things. Yeah. Okay. I got to educate that person. But do they expect to come in as a 27-year-old VP, or do they no, I know I need to start at the bottom, but can we accelerate them through that because they've got some life skills and stuff like that? The answer is maybe.
Maybe, yeah. And unfortunately for what I see with the small to medium enterprise people is they want to grow the business, Wally, but once they start adding that second and third person to the company actually starts to go into a negative, from my experience and from what I see, they go into a reverse mode because they now have to manage these people and they now have to put these people first in terms of the payroll and themselves last in terms of the payroll. And if I take on more jobs, that means I'm running on to the next job and I'm pricing jobs and I'm leaving these guys behind. And as soon as I walk out that door, I don't know what's happening. And I don't have all the resources and the sort of nice measurement tools to see what our, productive qualities are at the end of every day. And I get a phone call to say, yeah, well, we got all that painted. And then I go in and find out that it's only the first coat and it's not filled or whatever else. I really feel for the small to medium enterprise guy, because they're probably nearly better off staying on their own as a one-man band. It's either that or you go to 10 maybe and 15 and 20 people. But the sort of 2, 3, 4, 5, it's just, that model doesn't seem to work. Is that your experience too?
Well, what happens is you become a hostage to your business, and you work 22 hours a day, and it's just not sustain. And oh, by the way, you may make a lot of money, but at what price? So you're absolutely right. So now let's back up a little bit and talk about the types of people that are in construction. That 60 to 70% of them are task oriented. You put a task in front of them, they get it done. So, and it doesn't mean they're not smart, but it's like, what's my task? Well, my task is to bid the job. My task is to build the job. Well, where is strategy, long-term planning, growth? If I'm in this cycle of bid and build, bid and build, bid and build, then I have to invoice, right? So bid, build, invoice, right? And so you're right; they become hostage to the job because task oriented, control. I can control what's in front of me and my tools. I got 3 people. I can control what's around me because it's me and 3 people. Well, now it's me and 3 crews, and I can't control it, right? So that's when it begins to break. And that's when you have to train someone. Usually there's somebody smart, right, who can step up. But you said something I don't want to miss. So you have to train them to lead the work. You have to trust them to lead the work. But then you need to have the systems in place to count the money, basically. So how do you submit, hey, we did 5 walls with 5 gallons of paint, and look, the technology today is better than it was 5 to 10 years ago. There are incredible software systems, and maybe you need to hire a bookkeeper. Oh, I can't afford to do that. Well, wait a second. If you hire a bookkeeper at $20 an hour, 20 pounds an hour, whatever it's going to be, and because you're out there doing 200-pound an hour work, right? So, right, at some point you have to invest in the business. And many small owners get in that vicious cycle of I can't, and then they never get out of it. And oh, by the way, look, I'm a small business, okay? Right? I have a couple of subcontractors. And then I have people who do what I do. And I know that they have 40 people working for them, direct employees. I have a couple of contractors. And so I'm more the individual than I am the big business. And that was a decision I made earlier on, that I didn't want to lose the touch with the customer. I didn't want to lose the quality. So my business has a ceiling. It's only going to get so big. And it has to do with the amount of days that I can personally bill with a small group of people. And that's exactly what we've talked about, right? And if I wanted to have 10 or 20 people working for me, I would probably hate my life. And my golf game would not be as good.
Well, I was kind of thinking your wife game would not be as good either. Because
you know her.
No, but like you just wouldn't have a quality of life with your family, and it's horrific to see people getting in themselves wrapped up into a scenario where there's a bit of ego on the table too, and they don't want to let go, and they want to be proud that we've won this contract. But like, winning the contract and executing the contract, under what terms, and what are you giving up, and do you have the capacity to deliver these jobs? It just, I think I just can't see past why somebody would take on 2 or 3 people within their own business and think that that's a successful model in terms of construction. I have yet to see it really working well. And I'm glad you said what you said, because if you're smart enough, pull yourself up out of the business, concentrate on what you're good at, stay client facing, become the expert painter or become the expert HVAC, and then put the systems and processes in place so that people can follow a blueprint. That's easier said than done, but in most cases, the tradesperson becomes a very good tradesperson first, and maybe not as good a business person second.
It's so true. If I have a business owner who is, running the paintbrush or running the loader, I say to them, you're the highest paid employee you have. You need to pay, you're the highest paid operator. We need to make other people be good operators or painters or whatever. And it's a mental shift that people don't understand. And if you really go back to this task orientation, so if I painted today, I go home and my wife says, how was your day? And I say, I painted. Pride, right? I did. Well, if I'm a manager, right? What did you do today? Well, I managed. Well, what the hell is that? Manage the trash bin out to the curb or something, right? We can't get our hands around it. We don't have that tangible satisfaction. But that's when we have to shift the philosophy of what business ownership, business leadership is.
So, are we saying that we should probably look at keep it small for as long as you can, and maybe if you're having a high vision for the future and you have this massive, scale that you've built out the model and saying, yeah, I've got a 3 to 5 year plan now. Is that a case of going out and buying companies, or getting in private equity or family and friends and let's go, we're going to do this? Or what are you seeing? What's the model?
Yeah, I think on the smaller side, when you're going from a handful of employees to 20 to 30, it's not buying, it's not private equity, it's organic growth. Maybe you merge with the guy next door, or joint venture with the guy next door. The key word I would use is intentionality, right? Get to a point in 5 years that you expected and wanted to get to. Don't be 100 employees in 5 years and say, oh my God, how did I get here? Right. And don't be at 10 people and say, I really wanted to get to 100. Look, if you want 10, get to 10. If you want 100, get to 100. And there's plans for both of those, right? There's strategies, there's experts like you and me, right? Who like, okay, you need to do this and this, or this, right? So, to me, it's more about being intentional and then saying, okay, I want to be 20 employees, 50, 100, whatever. Again, because there's certain systems that you have to have at 100 that you don't need at 20, right? From a labor scheduling perspective, as opposed to it's in, I know that Jimmy's over here and Bobby's over there when I get 2 or 3 people. So the systems have to increase. Systems cost money. Okay, well, which ones do I buy? Well, there's 3 good ones. Are you a member of a peer group, or do you have people that you can talk to, other painting contractors in Ireland, and what are they using? Right? They're really, the point there is, I don't think you can grow your business by yourself. Meaning you need experts, you need accounting, you need maybe safety consulting. There are certain experts that you have to tap into to grow the business, because you cannot be an expert in all of the, even if you're an expert in construction, you're the best painter in the world, and you've determined that I'm going to delegate and create other painters. You still need it from an IT perspective, from an accounting perspective, and some other perspectives. But again, that costs. So, okay, I have to hire an accountant. That's going to cost. What does it have to do to my margins and all of those things? But you said it earlier that there's a 5-year plan. Yeah, that's that intentional thing that I'm talking about, is let's not just get there and go, how did I get here? And I don't like it.
Yeah,
I know you see a lot of that.
I just see risk. I just see too much risk, and I see people taking on capacity that they're not able to deliver on. So they don't look at capacity and give it a serious thought and say, I'm only a 3-man company. There's no way I could deliver that job and do this guy's job down the road. So, with respect, I'm going to have to let that job go. Now, what I hear back is, Well, I'll throw in a stupid price, and if I get it, well, hey, and then sod's law, they probably do get the job, and they say, "Oh
Exactly.
shit, now I'm going to have to
Yeah.
deliver that." Oh, great,
Yeah.
I'm going to make more profit. So then they go, "Actually, I'm making more money on that job, so I'm actually going to give that job more of my attention because he's actually giving me more money than the original patsy that gave me the job down the road." So now, they don't solve that problem. They think so. It's
A lost
they
dollar
think,
is a lost dollar, right?
yeah. Well, you go back to trust, brand, promise, and you are who you say you are. I just it fascinates me. It fascinates me that people don't look at risk management, and that really, I suppose, this whole conversation is about risk management. And you've identified that people are a central focus of that risk management process, because if people aren't aligned and if they're not the right people, because realistically, what you're saying is if you can get the right people into your company, you can be a 3-person business or a 5-person business or a 10-person business, because you can walk out that door knowing that everybody has equity in the room behind you, and that, when you come back, this guy is delighted to say, "By the way, I've painted the whole place. Let's move on to the next job and let's keep going."
Yeah.
But that's not
Yeah.
the case, because
It's not. And
employers
look,
are trying to take too much off the table for themselves because, well, it's my company.
and I've seen it. Well, I've seen both, right? I've seen that employer who views labor as merely a production resource and, try to get them for as cheap as you can. Well, if you get them for as cheap as you can, you're going to get cheap. And look, you still have to make an adequate margin for the risk you're taking as an owner, right? Look, you're taking on all that risk. It's your name on the side of the truck and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean you need to demean the person. You can pay a very nice wage to people, and still, and the experience would show that if you pay more, they'll do more, right? Because they know that when it gets in your pocket, it can get into their pocket. Look, yeah, and I've dealt with both kinds of owners, and generally, I'm able to figure out that first one, and I don't want to go anywhere near them, but there is a lot to be said for having that. A friend of mine in Chicago, he's got 15. He's an electrician. He's got 15 guys, and I can't. I think his business is $10 million a year. And I've gotten to know him over the years, and he says, I don't want to be any bigger. This is my number. And, yeah, sometimes it moves this because there's an existing client that makes me do that, or, throws a little bit of work at me. But I'm right in this range right here with my 15 guys. And I know one's getting ready to retire, but, and these are union guys. He says, yeah, but he knows a kid, a nephew who wants to come in and, right. And we can work it. Right. So it's very manageable and very profitable as well.
Yeah, and organic, which is good to hear. Wally, I'm going to throw a few curveballs at you because we've enjoyed the conversation with you so much. People probably thinking, "What's behind Wally and that wall?" So, tell us about a favorite holiday destination that you have and why.
Well, I don't think it's a specific geography. It's about being able to do something when I get there. So I was just in Ireland in May, and we played a lot of golf. So that was good. We're planning a trip maybe to South Asia, South Pacific, to do some diving next year. To me, it's all about the experience. Sitting on the beach doesn't
Doesn't
do a
matter
lot
where
for
it
me.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
the
I want
right.
to go see, I want to experience, I want to eat the food. Life to me is about the experience.
Yeah, I love that, and with your loved ones, obviously
Uh, you know,
sharing it.
Depends if she's in a good mood or not. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. In fact, when I was when the golf trip was because my son's university went over, and then I brought my daughter over, and we played a bunch of golf, like I said.
Brilliant. A book that you read that's your go-to book. It can be business, or it can be fiction. It doesn't have to be business oriented, or it could be both.
Wow. there's an incredible book called The Lost Art of Effective Listening, and it talks about how to be a good listener. And it tells about how we grow as infants and children, etc., um, and why we listen the way we listen or don't listen. But wow, yeah, The Lost Art of Effective Listening. It's a little clinical. It's written by a psychologist, I think. But um, one of my favorite phrases is "not listening is hard on the heart." Right? When I don't listen to you, it's hard on you, right? It hurts you when I don't listen to you, right? And what does true listening look like? There's some really, yeah, that's one of my favorite books, actually. I don't want to say it changed my life, but it had a profound impact on me. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely comes across. It definitely comes across, Wally. Tell me about something about you that not many people would know, or that they uh, wouldn't connect that with you, or something, an interesting point about you that maybe,
Well,
shit, I didn't
if you
know that about Wally.
yeah, if you dig a little bit, you'll see that I was the mascot at the University of Notre Dame when I went to college there. So I was the leprechaun. I was the Fighting Irish at
Oh,
Notre
brilliant.
Dame. Yeah, yeah. Um,
No
but
way.
yeah, but I'll get very serious on you. Is that I stopped drinking about 20 something years ago, and that probably enabled me to accomplish more because I was able to focus my efforts better and develop better relationships with people. And look, I've had a lot of pints in my life, and I don't mind hanging out with people who are having a pint, and I love going into a pub and talking. But I'll just have a Coke Zero.
Yeah, no, lovely. Well done. Great story. Great story. And the last one, I suppose, you know, what would you do, knowing what you know now, what would you do different?
Oh, I would have saved more money. I remember I had my first car, and the payment was maybe $400 a month. So I paid it off, and then I said, okay, now I need to start saving money, and I started putting $100 a month, into a mutual fund or something. And then I drank $300 a month. Maybe I could have just drank $200 a month, right? I'd still be doing what I'm doing, I think, but maybe doing a little less of it, or maybe charging a little less of it. Um, but it really goes to the root of our entire conversation today about having a long view. And when we talk about the contractors, right, are you paying yourself first? And if you can't pay yourself, then your business is failing. And like, if you want to pay yourself a salary and a profit, however you want to take money out of the business, but if you can't provide for your economic future, your business is failing. So when I was 22, 23, 24, I wasn't really thinking about those things. But that's and Friday and Saturday nights actually. But that's, if I had to go back and quote do it again, I would have been a better saver initially. All the life experiences I had, the job changes, etc. Look, yeah, there's probably a situation or two, but every single one of them taught me something that now enables me to sit here and do what I do. So I don't know if I would second guess that, but I certainly would have saved a little bit more along the way.
Brilliant. And like, people, you're not unique to Chicago. Like, if people want to reach out to you from any part of the world, I'm sure your blueprint and what you do and how you deliver your service can be delivered in any format. It doesn't have to be in person. It can be online,
I
or it
know,
could
and
be.
but yeah, and the easiest way to get me is, well, my website is constructionleadership.com, or you can track me down on LinkedIn. Both of those have my emails,
You got
and
constructionleadership.com.
I do.
Wow. How many people try to buy that off you?
Not as many as you think, but the truth of it, here's the stupid stuff, is I owned it for I don't even know how many years, and I never did anything with it. I had my Firestarter one. And a buddy of mine said to me, he goes, dude, you have beachfront property that you're not developing. So I'm like, oh, okay. So
With a
in any event,
Lamborghini. With a
yeah, so
Lamborghini.
people, so maybe there is some value there for when I retire. Ooh, you have just created I need to start looking. But my point is, I'm always available for a conversation. We may not work together, but we can certainly have a conversation about this industry and some of the, if somebody said, well, you mentioned a book and I don't know what it was, or send me an email or whatever, and call me, whatever. We can have those conversations. Absolutely.
It's like people development, leadership development, executive development. It's, floating all the boats at the same time, so everybody's talking the same language. It fits into culture, vision, it fits into values, it fits into branding, it fits into your identity as a company, and you're the guy that can sort of connect all of those areas and sort of harmonize it.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. But yeah. And I said most folks who call me, as you already identified earlier, are bigger. They already know what they want to accomplish. That they don't have that expertise to take it to that next level. But there's plenty of great resources out there, and I'm proud to be one of them.
Oh, you're brilliant, and I'm so delighted you came and joined us today, Wally. So thanks very much for coming on the show, and we wish you the very best. We'll put all your details in the show notes for anybody that wants to get in contact with you, and we wish you every success. And next time you're back in Ireland, give me a shout.
I absolutely will. I appreciate it.